is Lily.
She is known the world over as Lily Munster, television's favorite vampire mom.
How would you like to have to clean 9 rooms in a dungeon every day?
She could play comedy magnificently.
You know, they just don't make men like you anymore.
But hidden beneath the ghoulish makeup was one of the world's most exotic and voluptuous beauties.
Thanks for taking an interest.
She not only had a face, she had a whole lot of everything else that went with it.
Throughout the 1940s and 50s, she mesmerized movie audiences in a series of sword and sandal pictures before starring opposite some of Hollywood's biggest heartthrobs. Off-screen, she had her pick of the most exciting and powerful men of her day.
There are very few women that wouldn't have taken advantage of that, and she did. She had a zest for life.
I don't know what else I could possibly do for you, Helen.
I would describe her as a woman that knows what she wants and gets it.
But while her life was a roller coaster ride of extreme highs and lows, Yvonne DiCarlo had an enduring will to survive.
My mother could be very emotional, and then there's other times where she can really be like a brassy warrior.
So, in full payment.
In 1922, the growing city of Vancouver, Canada, was recovering from a post-war depression and celebrating the repeal of Prohibition. It was here on September 1st that 19-year-old Marie DiCarlo Middleton gave birth to a daughter named Margaret Yvonne.
It was a hard birth. Marie was screaming, and she said, "I want a girl, and I want her to be a dancer." And then she said, "If it's a boy, drown it."
Margaret's mother had run away from home at the age of 16 to become a ballerina. But after 2 years as a shop girl, she married William Middleton, a handsome, charismatic con artist.
He was involved in flim-flam schemes, things like selling phonographs and speakers that were supposedly wireless that weren't.
Peggy, as she was soon nicknamed, was only a toddler when her father beat a hasty departure just one step ahead of the law, never to be seen again. With her hard-drinking mother often away with boyfriends, the little girl was left in the care of her grandparents.
Her grandmother, who was Presbyterian and very prim and proper, and then on the other hand there was Marie, her mother, who liked to have a good time. So she was brought up in a dual atmosphere, one of a grandmother who's very pristine in many ways, very conservative, very moral, and then her own mother, who is defying all those standards.
Peggy found security with her emotionally distant grandparents, but she desperately craved attention. The pretty child had inherited her mother's lively personality, and when she entered grade school, she found that her powerful singing voice brought her the recognition she longed for.
From a very young age, Peggy had a very full-bodied voice, and she went from singing at little things at the family table to doing little performances at school.
Although Marie recognized Peggy's talent for singing, she had decided long ago that any daughter of hers would be a dancer.
Yvonne really wanted to be a singer. She had a lovely voice, but her mother was focused on dancing because that's what she liked. So she decided to transfer that ambition to her daughter, and she actually forced her to take dance lessons. She was convinced Yvonne was going to be something and did everything in her power to make that happen.
After several years of study with a local ballet teacher, Peggy was stunned when her mother announced that they were going to Hollywood, where opportunities for dancers were sure to be plentiful. But Los Angeles was not the land of broad beaches and palm trees Peggy had imagined. They moved into a cheap downtown apartment, and Marie took what work she could.
Marie would get a job, since she wasn't trained in anything, usually as a waitress, but being very unconventional and disliking schedules, and a good time was better than working, very often she'd lose her job.
Peggy enrolled at LeConte Junior High and began daily ballet lessons at the Fanchon and Marco School of Dance. But within months, she was uprooted once again when her visa expired. It was the first of 3 disruptive round trips between Canada and California that Peggy would make over the next few years. Though her academic education was erratic, her dance training continued uninterrupted. But it was becoming increasingly clear that Peggy's body was not supple enough to withstand the rigors of ballet. When Canadian dance teacher June Roper steered her in a new direction, Peggy was both grateful and relieved.
June Roper proved to be almost like a surrogate mother. She really took a fascinated interest in Peggy. She saw that this girl not only was very pretty, but that she really did have talent. She was the first one to say to her, Peggy, let's not think in terms of ballet so much. Let's think in terms of other types of dances that you could be doing.
The following year, Roper arranged for Peggy to appear at the Orpheum Theater as a hula dancer in the whimsical Waikiki Revue. By age 17, Peggy had blossomed into a shapely young woman and began to envision herself as a glamorous showgirl. When a new nightclub, the Palomar, opened in Vancouver, Peggy finessed her way into a week-long booking. Hoping to present a more sophisticated image, she combined her middle name with her mother's maiden name. In 1939, Peggy Yvonne Middleton became Yvonne DiCarlo. Months later, Yvonne and Marie returned to Hollywood. But by now, her mother was all but unemployable, and the teenager was beginning to feel the weight of responsibility. Desperate to advance her career, the striking 18-year-old entered the Miss Venice beauty contest.
It's Bathing Beauty Day at Venice, California. The beauty contest is held on a Venice pier every year to select winners to compete in the Miss America contest at Atlantic City. Among the beautiful girls for fame and fortune is Yvonne DiCarlo.
After the Miss Venice Pier contest, both Marie and Peggy felt super confident. Now they said, well, here we are in Hollywood, so now it's time for us to try some club work. So one of the first places they tried, which was one of the more prominent clubs, was Earl Carroll's club.
But when she refused to allow Mr. Carroll to examine her bare breasts, as he did with all his auditioning performers, Yvonne and her mother walked out of the nightclub and headed down the block to another popular night spot, the Florentine Gardens. The naive teenager believed she was on the road to success when the club's owner, Nils Grandland, hired her as a dancer in what was really a thinly disguised girly revue.
She comes out in the 7 veils and little by little discards them till she's down to a couple of pasties and a G-string. A guy in a gorilla suit comes out, picks her up, throws her over his shoulder, and takes her off the stage.
I know that it was burlesque, and I know that Marie was there, and she would go to the audience and say, applaud for my daughter louder.
All the Hollywood wolves, as they say, the single guys went there. On any given night, you might see Errol Flynn or Henry Fonda, Burgess Meredith. These are the people that Yvonne eventually met.
Yvonne realized that her sensuality brought more than money. It brought the kind of attention that she had hungered for since she was a child. But as Yvonne entered more sophisticated social circles, the lessons she had learned from her puritanical grandparents were not forgotten.
She was kept innocent, if you can believe this, because her grandparents were very austere people, and so she was preached to. They were very strict with her.
In 1940, Yvonne was proud to be featured in a musical short known as a soundie. The young dancer liked what she saw on the screen. Believing she had a shot at the major leagues, a glamorous lifestyle and big money, Yvonne DiCarlo made up her mind to be a movie star. She returned to the Florentine Gardens with a new sense of purpose, but bandleader Artie Shaw awakened the teenager to a harsh reality.
He was very flat out forthright with her, and he said to her one day, you know, Yvonne, working at the Florentine Gardens, you're in a deep rut and you're not going to get out of there. And this upset her because she was very happy. She thought her career was progressing.
Yvonne gratefully accepted Shaw's offer of a month's wages and quit her job. She quickly found an agent and for her first movie role received $35, playing a bathing beauty in Harvard Here I Come. When no other film parts followed, the pragmatic DiCarlo returned to club work, this time at Earl Carroll's.
After she got working in nightclubs and got used to performing scantily clad, Well, then she said, fine. So she went in and flashed him, and she got the job.
But only 2 months later, on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor signaled America's entrance into World War II.
Y tus trailers, visita mi canal.
Yvonne joined Hollywood's biggest stars, performing in morale-boosting USO shows.
That's all the music I have. I don't know what else I could possibly do for you fellas.
Yvonne's confidence soared as she sang before thousands of cheering servicemen. Before long, she was a favorite pinup and the recipient of thousands of letters from lovesick GIs. In 1942, executives at Paramount Pictures also took notice of the exotic beauty and cast her as Dorothy Lamour's handmaiden in The Road to Morocco, starring Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. That August, Yvonne DiCarlo joined Paramount's roster of contract players, and the studio kept the ingenue busy with bit parts in a series of notable films. As Yvonne gained more independence, her relationship with her mother grew strained, and she moved into a small apartment. Now on her own for the first time, and free from the pressure of supporting Marie, Yvonne realized that all work and no play makes for a dull girl.
They called her Icebox DiCarlo and all these names because she was a virgin. But she decided, you know, enough is enough. Let's get on with it. So she had had a few affairs.
In 1944, Paramount decided to cut down their number of exotic actresses, and the 21-year-old starlet was unceremoniously dumped. But Yvonne DiCarlo was no stranger to hard times. She had come too far to give up now. And if she had learned anything from her mother, it was that tenacity pays off. In 1944, Yvonne DiCarlo's brief tenure at Paramount had ended with a whimper. But when producer Walter Wanger cast her as the lead in his Technicolor Western, Salome Where She Danced, Universal Pictures wasted no time in signing the starlet to a $350 a week contract. Billed as the most beautiful girl in the world, Yvonne did not disappoint.
If you are quite through robbing these poor people, I would like to go on with my dance. That's what they came here for and paid for.
Go ahead, lady, dance.
She had some kind of piercing gaze, as well as a way of communicating to the audience, as well as the person she was playing opposite. And there was a magnetism there, and a mystery.
Salome Where She Danced was one of the year's biggest hits, and Yvonne became one of Universal's hottest properties. The studio schooled her in etiquette and grooming and demanded that she never be seen in public unless she looked and behaved like a star.
Yvonne was a star. She, by golly, was a star, and in those days, being a star was something very special. They were sort of coddled, and they were taken care of, and they were made into stars.
Before long, the highly publicized actress caught the attention of dashing billionaire Howard Hughes, who began to actively pursue her.
What she liked about Hughes, I think, was an air of mystery, intelligence, power.
She made a mistake of falling in love with him, despite what her friends told her. This guy, I mean, that's all he does is collect women. He's not interested in marriage. And finally, one day, she got the gumption to ask him, "Are we going to get married, Howard?" He said no. And that was that.
Unfazed, Yvonne spent a little time pondering her losses and set her sights on actor Robert Stack.
She had an ideal man in her mind. Tall, blonde, blue-eyed, handsome, and he fitted the mold more than anybody she had met to that point.
Naturally, my eye caught hers, and I thought to myself, wowee, she not only had a face, she had a whole lot of everything else that went with it.
Before long, the two were an item, enjoying the dazzling Hollywood nightlife, as well as days spent outdoors, swimming, riding, and shooting.
She was a combination of things. She could dress to the nines and look like a Grace Kelly, or she could slop around in old blue jeans and look like Auntie May, you know. As a matter of fact, I gave Yvonne a gun. I gave her, it was a little Winchester pump, a little .22, and she was a good little shot.
In 1947, Yvonne set the screen on fire with her seductive dancing in Song of Scheherazade.
My, that's fast. It sounds like a bee or something, buzzing around a bumblebee. Free, happy, not a care in the world.
God had given her a whole lot of really good things, and it didn't take a genius with a camera to make her look like what she looked like. And also, she had a terrific figure, and you stick her in those desert pictures where she's wandering around and all the guys are drooling.
But despite the compatibility she shared with Robert Stack, Yvonne was not content to be a one-man woman. By now, she was a glamorous sex symbol whose face was recognized the world over. And in 1948, DiCarlo became a member of the international set when she began dating His Royal Highness Prince Abdoreza Pahlavi of Iran.
I would say she was a very emancipated woman, much more so than most of the other Hollywood actresses, because she dated quite a bit. If somebody is rich and famous at a party, the two of them would naturally gravitate because she was very pretty, so she could pick who she wanted.
The on-again, off-again affair with Pahlavi, which spanned 5 years, was a confection of lavish spending, glamorous parties, and wild adventure. During this period, Yvonne made time to star in a series of popular films which required little of her acting ability. But in 1949, Yvonne found a role she could sink her teeth into when she was cast as Anna, a two-timing schemer, opposite Burt Lancaster in Crisscross.
How did it happen? How did I get all mixed up?
I didn't know, Anna. I didn't know.
I'm scared. They're killers, killers. I can't even sleep. Look the way he treats me.
This was the very first film that she was given a chance to do a dramatic part. And this was a departure from her normal kind of a picture. First of all, she looked entirely different. They lightened her hair. They gave her kind of a rough edge.
You loved me.
Love, love. You have to watch out for yourself. That's the way it is, I'm sorry. What do you want me to do, throw away all this money? Just don't know what kind of a world it is.
Well, I'll know better next time.
I'm sorry I can't be like you. I'm not like you. I wasn't born that way.
Yes, you're right. I am different. I never wanted the money. I just wanted you.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. I'm sorry.
Crisscross was a success, and Yvonne received her first solid reviews as an actress. In her next project, The Gal Who Took the West, she not only walked away with the picture, but a new fiancé, handsome stuntman and actor Jock Mahoney. But this time, something was different. Yvonne could envision a future and a family with Mahoney. In 1949, the couple became engaged, and Yvonne was elated to discover that she was pregnant. But in her first trimester, she suffered a miscarriage and fell into a deep depression. Her relationship with Mahoney deteriorated, and when she caught Jock cheating on her with actress Margaret Field, Yvonne called off the engagement. The 27-year-old decided it was time to reevaluate her life and her career. After the success of Crisscross, she had expected better roles, but the studio was offering more of the standard fare.
I think she was limited simply because that's the way the studio business worked. She could go in there and say, look, I want those Helen Hayes parts. And they say, honey, the money comes from what you're doing. Take your clothes off and show us, you know. So that's the way the studio business was then.
In 1950, when Universal executives balked at Yvonne's demands for more challenging parts, she refused to renew her contract. Though her first films as a free agent were disappointments, In 1953, her luck changed when she was cast as Alec Guinness's Moroccan wife in the comedy The Captain's Paradise.
She was playing opposite Alec Guinness, who was in no small measure a very good actor. He had reservations, though, about having a Hollywood glamour girl as a co-star. But interestingly, after they played the first couple of scenes, he actually hugged her and he said, "Oh, I'm so glad to find out that you're talented."
I once stay home nighttime sometimes, give you slippers. But you silly man, all you want to do is go drinking, dancing, swimming, making love. You make yourself absolutely ridiculous.
Did you say I made myself ridiculous?
Yes.
He really enjoyed working with her. I mean, they had a couple of dance scenes. She had to teach him how to mambo, and he really came to respect her.
Yvonne celebrated the success of Captain's Paradise with a trip abroad. While in France, the glamour girl embarked on another royal romance, this time with the notorious playboy Prince Ali Khan.
She wasn't serious about him as a husband, but they had a great relationship. She was like a lover confidant.
By 1954, the actress was successfully changing the course of her career, and she had her pick of the most eligible men in the world. At 31, she was the belle of the ball, but how long could the party last? Yvonne De Carlo was about to find out. In 1955, Yvonne De Carlo made it to the A-list when Cecil B. DeMille cast her as Moses' wife in his epic film The Ten Commandments, starring Charlton Heston. That same year, the 33-year-old began dating widower Bob Morgan, a rugged actor and stuntman she had met on the set of an earlier film.
I was told by Yvonne was that it was like an animal attraction, but I think there was something about Bob's free spirit and rough character, you know, the cowboy, the simple man.
In Bob Morgan, Yvonne believed she had finally found a man who truly loved her. And on November 21st, the two were wed in Reno, Nevada.
She said once she was married, she knew there was going to be an end to freedom and that you got married and you stayed married. But she knew that it was the end of a certain kind of independence.
The following July, Yvonne gave birth to her first child, Bruce. With the addition of Bob's 8-year-old daughter, Barry, the perennial playgirl suddenly found herself the mother of two, a role for which she was totally unprepared.
I think my father was putting demands on her to be something that she had never been before and never been taught how to be, and had no clue, basically, how do you be a mother?
In October of 1956, The Ten Commandments was released amid a frenzy of publicity. Yvonne was in the spotlight, with Bob eclipsed by his wife's celebrity.
This is a guy that had some kind of authority over men in the war as a pilot, and there was a sense of status. Now he was walking behind a movie star. The photographers are enfolding her, and you can see him walking behind, and you can see the look on the face, and it's not happy.
But Yvonne was thrilled with the direction her career was taking and believed her star could only rise when she was cast opposite Clark Gable in Band of Angels. In the post-Civil War drama, De Carlo played a high-born woman of mixed race sold to a white slave trader.
You know, that's a very becoming frock. We are putting some style in this old house, aren't we?
Don't talk to me about this house. I hate it. And I hate you. I thought you had some decency, but you haven't. Setting that pet overseer of yours to watch me.
I like the chapeau, too.
I bought it to run away in, you hear? I was about to get on a steamboat if it hadn't been for that row-roo. Well, this slave's not going to do you any good, massa, because I'm getting out of here come hell and brimstone, and you'll never see hide nor hair of me again. And you better tell that man to give you back your $5,000.
Unfortunately, Band of Angels left many critics cold, and Yvonne returned to the type of B-list adventure films that had once been her bread and butter. But with the recent popularity of more sophisticated adult-themed pictures, De Carlo's movies were beginning to seem passé. After the birth of a second son, Michael, in 1957, The Morgan household numbered 5, and with Bob's earning power far below that of his wife, money was tight. Over the next few years, the veteran actress worked non-stop. She appeared in nightclubs, released an album of popular songs, and guest starred in such television shows as Playhouse 90 and Adventures in Paradise.
I guess I owe you something. So, in full payment.
As I said, tough and funny.
Hugo.
Yes?
If I didn't hate you,
Yes?
I'd love you.
With her hectic schedule, Yvonne depended on her mother to help with the children. But still, she found it difficult to balance her career with the demands of motherhood.
You don't apologize for being an actress that has kids. You do it, and you make the best of it. Here's the thing. Stage moms and star moms may be many things, but if a person tries their best, what more can you ask for?
Yvonne was also struggling to maintain her relationship with Bob, which was beginning to show signs of strain.
You know, he played golf a lot. I'm sure she wanted time with him. I think they both tried to control each other, and it just wasn't happening. It wasn't what you call a calm and serene household.
He was a heavy drinker. He belonged to the John Wayne macho school, where you work hard all day, you go to the bar after work, and have some belts with the boys, and then you go home to the wife and kids. You know, years ago, alcoholism wasn't a disease to these people, and they fought a lot.
In 1961, after 5 years of marriage, Yvonne was contemplating divorce. But all of that changed in one chilling moment when she received a phone call from Phoenix. Bob had been run over by a train while performing a stunt on the MGM film How the West Was Won. Terrified, Yvonne rushed to be by her husband's side.
She was very upset, and she was very distraught, and she was crying, and she said, "Your father's in a very, very bad way," and I think she was really scared he was going to die.
3 flat cars run over him. In the hospital, he was patched up, died clinically 3 times, and they revived him. Facial crushing injuries, lost his left leg, back, coccyx vertebrae crushed.
Yvonne helped Bob through months of additional surgery and the emotional adjustment to his artificial leg.
She had some sense of loyalty to what she committed to, and I very much respect her for that. And she stayed out of work for a while to take care of him personally.
But MGM assumed no responsibility for the accident. Feeling they had no other recourse, the Morgans filed a $1.4 million lawsuit against the movie studio, claiming Bob was permanently disabled through the negligence of the film's assistant director.
It is one of the most tragic stories in the whole world, this magnificent athlete being crippled by an idiot. The studio would not allow anyone to back him up in the lawsuit. From what I heard, said anybody who backs him up and testifies for him will be fired.
The couple was emotionally and financially devastated when all attempts to sue MGM came to a dead end, and Yvonne was forced to mortgage their house. Recognizing her plight, in 1963, friend John Wayne offered the 41-year-old actress a role in his film McClintock, in which he played the Duke's lusty housekeeper.
Mrs. McClintock, hope you won't misunderstand. It's the first 100 women sitting on his lap that I misunderstood. Number 101 is quite simple. I waited up to talk to Mr. McClintock. I wanted to tell him I was quitting. You see, Sheriff Lord has asked me to marry him, and... Oh, congratulations. I don't want to seem prudish, but if you are going to marry Sheriff Lord, it seems to me that you're sitting on the wrong man's lap.
For Yvonne, Wayne's gesture of friendship offered only a momentary relief from her mounting medical and legal debts. The actress was at an all-time low, and there seemed to be no light on the horizon. But Yvonne de Carlo's career was about to receive some supernatural assistance in the form of a beautiful vampire named Lily Munster. 1964 started out as a disastrous year for 41-year-old Yvonne De Carlo. Her film career had come to a halt, and after nearly 30 years of work, she was deeply in debt. But when her old studio, Universal, called with an offer to star in a TV series about a family of monsters living in the suburbs, Yvonne had mixed feelings.
At first, she was embarrassed by the thought of doing it, but her agents and her bank book told her, go audition for this, you need the part, you need the money, it might lead to something.
The Munsters debuted on September 24th, 1964, with Yvonne playing Lily Munster, a century-old vampire and matriarch of a ghoulish household. Also starring in the series were Fred Gwynne as Lily's Frankenstein-style husband, Al Lewis as Grandpa, her vampire father, Beverly Owen as the blonde, blue-eyed family misfit, and Butch Patrick as her werewolf son.
Now, you be a good boy. See? Mommy sewed the ear back on your woof-woof.
Fred and I heard that they had hired Yvonne De Carlo. Being from New York, we barged in. What do you mean? She can't, blah, blah, blah. And we were wrong. We were wrong, Fred and I, because she was marvelous in the show.
The series was a monster hit, and when Pat Priest stepped into the role of Marilyn, the show's popularity only continued to grow. Yvonne brought a unique quality to the character of Lily, making her the perfect TV mom.
I think of Yvonne as being kind of a vampire version of Donna Reed.
Eddie, you should spend Saturday afternoons at home doing something more wholesome, like digging up bones in the backyard with Spot.
All of her gestures, you know, with her hands, all the wonderful little unique things that she brought to that part. Those things were natural to Yvonne. They're not to anyone else.
Tut-tut, Mr. Brastoff.
The star loved indulging in the broad comedy and lively banter that made the relationship between Herman and Lily Munster sparkle.
Herman, what are you doing here?
Oh, Lily. Well, you see,
If that's my husband, get rid of him.
Lily, you may not believe this, but I'm Secret Agent 702.
Herman, you may not believe this, but I'm Sonny Liston. Come on, Marilyn.
To transform herself into the ashen-faced vampire, Yvonne shed her glamorous image and endured 3 hours in the makeup chair every morning before putting in a 12-hour workday.
You know, that was pretty hard to shine through all that makeup that she wore. Not only did she have to have her face and her neck and out toward her shoulders made up, but her arms had to be made up because they were bare. You know, you'd get headaches just from the weight of all that hair. It was not easy.
But it was worth it for Yvonne, who was enjoying the attention of a whole new generation of fans.
This you've got to see. The Munsters at Marineland.
Munster mania was everywhere. There were Munster lunch boxes, hand puppets, and board games, personal appearances by the entire cast, and a customized Jaguar Mark X for Yvonne to drive around town. But just as the actress's career was returning to stable ground, the novelty of the Munsters began to wear thin. During the show's second season, the ratings began to sag. In 1966, Yvonne agreed to co-star in the color feature film Munster Go Home, which was intended to renew interest in the television show.
Herman Munster inherits a fortune and a castle full of homicidal relatives.
Allow me to present my wife, Lily.
Pleased to meet you.
And Grandpa?
Oh, quiet, Father. I'm trying to think.
It's frightfully funny.
But by the time Munster Go Home was released, the series was already canceled, and the actress was looking for her next paycheck. For Yvonne, the pressure to support her family was intense.
I believe that Yvonne was like Atlas holding up the world in terms of financial support of other people. Holding up an entire family as she did was an amazing thing. I wish somebody could have come along and shaken her and said, don't support everyone and don't let anybody make you feel guilty about this or that.
By now, Yvonne's relationship with Bob had become intolerable, and she needed an escape from the home that had become a battleground. Over the next few years, the actress kept busy by appearing in a series of low-budget films and traveling on the dinner theater and nightclub circuit. By cashing in on her movie star persona and still marketable name, Yvonne successfully managed to avoid the typecasting that plagued her Munster co-stars Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis. In 1971, she made her Broadway debut as Carlotta, a down-on-her-luck former showgirl in the Stephen Sondheim musical Follies.
Good times and bum times, I've seen them all in my dear. I'm still here. Plush velvet sometimes, sometimes just pretzels and beer. But I'm here. I've run the gamut, A to Z. 3 cheers and damn it, c'est la vie. I got through all of last year, and I'm here.
I'm Still Here became her anthem. And her singing of that song and being in Follies, where she got great reviews, became one of her great show business successes.
Follies ran for a staggering 522 performances. At 48, Yvonne de Carlo would prove to one and all that she was indeed still here and still a star. Fresh off her Broadway success in Follies, Yvonne de Carlo appeared in cult film director Russ Meyer's The 7 Minutes, portraying a defense witness in an obscenity trial.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name for the record.
Constance Cumberland.
Please be seated.
You indicated in earlier testimony that you had published your own autobiography, which was a bestseller, as I recall. Have you ever written or published any other books?
Yes, I have.
How many other books?
1 book.
Was that book published under the name of Constance Cumberland?
No, it was not. It was published under a pseudonym.
Can you tell the court the title of that book and the pseudonym under which you wrote it?
The book was The 7 Minutes by J.J. Jadway. I am J.J. Jadway.
The film's reviews were merciless. However, New York Magazine proclaimed, only Yvonne de Carlo emerges unscathed, playing the lovely older movie star she happens to be. Critics weren't the only ones to notice the actress's enduring beauty. Yvonne was being courted by a number of attractive men, and in 1974 she decided it was time to end the marriage that for years had been in name only.
I think she felt free because the divorce was a contemplation for many years. So I think there was relief. I could sense immediately her picking up the pace.
Throughout the 1970s and 80s, Yvonne appeared in numerous films and even reprised the role of Lily in the popular TV movie Munster's Revenge. In 1987, the former screen siren published her autobiography and titillated readers with a candid account of her career and amorous adventures.
Here's the book, Yvonne. This is an autobiography.
It's too spicy for you, though.
Well, no, it is not. No, do you know what's in this book? There, you had, if I may say, liaisons with many famous men.
Yes, Howard Hughes and Prince Ali Khan and Prince Abdurrezza
Well, see, these are rich men that are...
Oh, and then there was a couple of truck drivers in there, too.
But 1993 marked the beginning of a downward spiral for the actress when her mother, with whom she had shared an emotionally trying relationship, succumbed to cancer.
I think that it was very sad for her. Her mother was very important to her, even if there was friction between the two of them. Yvonne had distanced herself in order to be herself. That was tough.
In 1997, Yvonne was inconsolable when her son Michael suddenly died at the age of 40.
Michael lived close to her, so they saw each other a lot. They went out for dinner and they watched movies together. So in some ways, he was like her companion. But he started to get sick and started to have these seizures, and eventually he had a bad one.
The following year, fate dealt Yvonne another blow when she suffered a stroke and was rushed to the hospital.
This was at a time when you have 93, her mother passes on, 97, her son passes on, and so it was a very tough time. She was lucky. She had a 98% recovery.
The resilient 76-year-old actress bounced back with her usual aplomb and returned to her home overlooking a golf course near Solvang, California.
She keeps up correspondence and I think plans her re-entry into the business. And I want to see her do that because she's an old trooper. She's not going to, be happy sitting up on a golf course for a long time.
Well, I'm not just going to sit around here and deteriorate.
By the year 2000, the actress had become a beloved television icon as reruns of the Munsters continued to win over new generations of fans.
I'd feel a lot better if I could hear a few explosions.
But Yvonne De Carlo's beauty, unquenchable zest for life, and indomitable spirit are what made her truly unforgettable.
She's appeared or starred in over 80 films. She's been a star on television, Broadway, and she's a survivor. And as the song says, she's still here.
She was a young girl when she started out, and things were not all a bed of roses for her in the beginning, and I think that's what formed her and made her a formidable person.
Lately I asked her, was it destiny, luck, or preparation, or what? And she would narrow her eyes and say they're all the same.
I describe her as one of the most beautiful women on film, personally as someone who took the travails and difficulties of the most difficult job in the whole wide world and handled them with class.